Peter Obi was in Chatham House during the week. This is how he started his speech.
We have an alarming insecurity that led to loss of many lives and properties, decline in food and economic output, immense trauma that has compromised the mental health of communities, and in some cases, disaffection with the Nigerian project. The economy is in crisis with a troubling debt profile worsened by oil theft of proportion once hard to imagine. 2 economic recessions in 6 years and lamentable power sector have significantly constrained manufacturing and social life. The Nigerian state is captive to an elite gang-up and a rentier political economy that concentrated power in hands of those who came to power and influence mainly through their own contrivances rather than affirmation of the people, and therefore do not have the incentive to serve the people. Even after exploiting the ethnic and religious cleavages, sentiments to ascend to political power, the very people on whose sentiments they grab power often become the primary victims of such political fraud that has rendered Nigeria a failing state with worsening leadership crisis. Consequently, Nigerian democracy had been on the wane, evident in Afrobarometer tracking, which reveals low voter turnout. But this seems to have turned around dramatically last year, allowing independent National Electoral Commission to register over 12 million new voters, with many more complaining they wish to register, but unable to do so due to an INEC deadline. What prompted this turnaround? We may ask. The reason for these very high stakes are lurking in the face of demographics, with our dominant population, the youth, frustrated and unhappy with the status quo and diminished opportunities in Nigeria in an age of globalization, when internet can easily reveal to them prosperous homes of those who live in a better led and governed countries.
Yes, Peter Obi at Chatham House. Osime Enakele is my guest on State Affairs. Osime, that's your man in Chatham House.
Yes. And I'm super happy with the outcome of his town hall meeting, because for me, leadership is all about taking responsibility. If you look at the whole incident that happened at Chatham House, you will see that Obi stood firm, took responsibility, and assured Nigeria that he was going to be in charge. There was never a time he said, you have to direct your question. And this is about responsibility. He said, I and my vice. He never used the word we. Because when you talk about statement, when you want to interpret statement, you want to ask who said this. If you look at the previous town hall meeting that we had, you cannot actually say, this person said I would be in charge. This person said I would do this. So you now find a situation where someone delegates question. If you delegate question, who should be held responsible when that thing goes wrong? So I was super proud of what Peter Obi did at the Chatham House.
But I thought leadership is also about delegation.
Delegation, yes. but someone is doing the delegation. Currently, we have a state that is trying to survive. Nigeria is trying to survive because someone delegated people to do things, and this same person is not taking responsibility. We currently have a president who will tell you, I am not aware. Why? Because he has probably delegated that particular action to somebody. So when you talk about delegation, it's not just delegation, it's also having the ability to monitor the people that you have delegated to do something. And you also have to be responsible. Say, oh, it is me. But what we are seeing here now is the person who ought to say, even if I'm in charge, I'm delegating, is saying, push the question to this person. So when you push a question to somebody and you're not saying, oh, I will be in charge, but I'm delegating. It's a two different thing to say I'm in charge, but I will delegate, than to say let this person do this.
Patience Osime Enakele is on State Affairs. She is a PhD candidate of Diaspora and Transnational Studies, University of Ibadan. She is a Peter Obi person. To Osime, the coming of Peter Obi is the coming of a new Nigeria. Remember that Peter Obi in December 2022 released a 62-page manifesto entitled Our Pact with Nigerians. In the manifesto, Obi and the Labour Party want to create a new Nigeria. The manifesto has 7 priority areas to be implemented if the Obi Dati ticket wins the 2023 election. The 7-point areas are similar areas. You have security, economy, restructuring, infrastructure, and the war against corruption. In the document, Peter Obi, his running mate Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed, and the Labour Party pledged to secure and unite Nigeria and also manage the country's diversity such that no one is left behind. Is it possible to carry everybody along?
Absolutely. It is possible. Let's go back to Chatham House. I remember a question was asked by somebody who said, how do you carry everybody along? What we've had in the past is defects in communication. We've had leaders who haven't really communicated with the people, and this has been a major problem. Now, how can Peter Obi carry everybody along? First and foremost, you need to communicate your goals, your objectives. You need to let the people know this is where we are headed. Communication, that's number 1. Then 2, what are these issues that have divided us over time? We talk about horizontal inequality, relative deprivation. These are the key issues that have divided and disunited us. And the elites, the leaders, have capitalized on these to further create division, right? So what a leader needs to do is, 1, communicate with the people. They say you don't negotiate with terrorists, you don't negotiate with bandits and everything. You use 2 means. Negotiate first. Yeah, because we all have our own grievances. Currently, I have my own grievances against the government. I was at home for 8 months. I pay school fees. I pay house rent. My landlord, there was never a time my landlord came to me to say, oh, since there's no school, why don't you forfeit your house rent? I have a grievance. Now, what I expected the government to do after their negotiation with ASU and the strike was called off was apologize to the students who have been at home. This is how you build a government of national unity. Take cognizance of the fact that people are angry. Take cognizance of the fact that certain areas have not benefited the larger population. Now, it's not all about elite politics. It's about the masses. How do you carry everybody along? Create policies that benefit the masses. I've heard people say, oh, yeah, there's no structure. And I'm like, we are about 200 million people in Nigeria. The elite, the current ruling class, they're about 5%. So if you create policies that takes care of like 100 million people, this policy will be a people's-oriented policy. And when you have 150 million people's policy, you will see that there will be some level of unity because you have taken care of the majority of people. So these are ways in which leaders can actually build a unity government, a government that takes care of everybody and not just the few who are currently benefiting from the Nigerian state right now.
Osime Enakele is on State Affairs. In the manifesto of the Labour Party, Peter Obi and Dati Baba Ahmed promised to move Nigeria from consumption to production. The Labour Party ticket has promised to embark on comprehensive legal and institutional reforms and practicable restructuring measures to fight corruption, to ensure the enthronement of the rule of law, and to decisively tackle all forms of corruption. Peter Obi is promising to prioritize human capital development through robust investment in education, health, and infrastructural development, with emphasis on wealth creation and distribution and sustainable development. At Chatham House, Peter Obi talks about his leadership principles, and he defines leadership in his own way.
How did we, Nigeria, get here in such an economic decline that we have overtaken India as a home for the biggest pool of absolute poor in the world, when there are 7 times our population? While the poverty rate in India is 16%, that of Nigeria is 63%. With 133 million people classified as multidimensionally poor. This is unacceptable and needs to change. What Nigeria needs is a great escape. As 2015 Nobel Prize winner in economics Angus Deaton of Princeton University elucidated that what separates poor and rich nations is attributed to health and education. But what provides quality health and educational system for a society committed and focused leadership that can build and sustain public wealth, as I was told by Professor Donald Jacob of Kellogg School of Management. In many ways, this is the heart of my remarks today, which are deeply rooted in my upbringing, particularly my mother's counsel, that I live a life of positive impact and manage both personal and public resources most prudently for the sustainable, inclusive growth of development of the society. It is this principle that guided my stewardship as governor of Anambra State of Nigeria and led to our much commended performance with some prize awards to show for it. Some awards for outstanding accomplishments in key Millennium Development Goals, now Sustainable Development Goals. It is the same council and principle that is guiding and motivating me to offer to serve in a new Nigeria. The answer lies in leadership, institution, and demographics. The good news is that the demography is driving the change we're seeing in Africa, with election after election last year in Africa, in which establishment parties are being upturned by new and small parties. It is this change that my vision of policy change and institutional development is rooted in a push for a broadened scope of social mobility and freedom for Nigeria, particularly for the youths and women. Like the former British Prime Minister, Harold Macmillan, said, at the start of the independence decade, a wind of change is blowing across Africa. Today, that new wind of change sees the ballot box as being instrumental to changing of bad leadership. Senator Yusuf Dat Ahmed, my running mate, and I are committed to new politics that start with ethics of servant leaders and anchored on marriage of clean hearts and skillful hands. We know that unless we change the politics by changing the political leadership, we are stuck in this terrible state of underdevelopment and misery. We will build our institutions, particularly the ones directly responsible for implementing government policies, to make them fit for purpose.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live